button, and it compiles a master list of all the attributes that are assigned to all these resources. So then once I have it in this screen, I can simply select multiple attributes and do an and or what have you. And once I've selected those, I can also do, by the way, a compound. So for example, if I needed a senior engineer who had an MBA, or I could pick any one of my engineers that had a PhD. I could build a compound statement like that. Once I execute that, then this list will narrow down to only those resources that meet those criteria for me, and then I can select them.
I see. So that narrows the list. What would you? Why? How does that help us? It doesn't look like that's actually added anybody to the schedule for me.
No. All that's done is narrow the list. I haven't narrowed the list, but I can pick anybody that I want here. So I could say, I want to pick Craig Dewar, and I want to pick John Peoples as a consultant, and I want to pick Ben Smith as a designer and engineer. And simply by selecting them, when I click Add to Steps, it drops them right over here into the schedule grid for me to go ahead and put the hours in that I want, so that Prep will schedule them for me.
So what you're saying to me is, over in RSE, I saw that we had estimate data that we brought into the schedule. Now here it's kind of like point-and-click scheduling as well.
That's right.
A lot of different areas, ways that you can schedule and prep.
That's right. They're really pretty cool too. There's a lot of information at your fingertips. Let me widen this screen just a little bit so we can see. Notice for each of the resources, we're focused on this task for this project, and here's the task dates that I'm planning to schedule, folks.
Right.
I can quickly see what their capacity is and what their scheduled load is. So for example, down here, Marty Ross is already scheduled for 4 of her available hours. So it's just information at my fingertips I can use to head off problems.
Boy, with that and the attributes, you can really kind of zero in on who and why you want to use them.
Absolutely.
It's very cool.
Absolutely. I'm just going to cancel this. We'll go back to schedule management and review.
Well, that's some really cool stuff. I see in the selection frame on the left that SK441, our new one, status is plan. I know you explained to me that we set the project to plan so that no one would record any actual costs against it until we're ready to do so.
Right.
But once we're ready to start work on it, I know we're going to want to activate the project, so we'll just go into project maintenance and change the status. Is that right, or is there another way to do it?
Oh, right while we're here, we can do that. I'll just right-click on any task in the project, go out to the scheduling workbench, and in the scheduling workbench, we have the ability to change both the project and the task statuses for the task that's focused. So I'll just go in here, change this from plan to active. It tells us that it's going to save it as soon as we hit the OK button, which I'll do here. And now that we're back here, I'll just simply refresh the view, and you'll notice that we now have an active task.
Very nice, and again, very easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now that we've got that taken care of, can you show me a bit more about these views? You had said that you were going to do that for me.
Yeah, sure. Let's just take a look at some views that are out here that we have defined. Here's a list that we've created so far. We can create as many views as we want. We can copy views from one to another, clone them, so we can quickly build up a view. They can be saved as a public view, as you can see up here, which means anybody can. I can create this view and anybody could use it or change it. If it's shared, then I could create the view and anybody can use it, but they can't change the view. And if it's private, I'm the only one that can actually use it and change it. So some examples are, this first one here is all resources. I created this view to simply allow me, when I'm planning for the next 8 weeks, and I want to see how our staff is doing in terms of how well they're utilized, if anybody, what the general feel is for under or overutilization. That's the view that I'll use. Down here, Brenda Diaz, I have a view set up for her so that when she wants to check her own schedule, when she logs in, Prep will identify that this is the view that she's to run, because that's the way I set it up, and that's the only one that she can run. That way she just looks at her stuff. you know, et cetera, et cetera.
I see. It looks like there's a huge amount of flexibility if I'm getting this. I'm not exactly a SQL wizard. Am I going to have to like go to SQL school to figure this out?
No, no, it's just a matter of going in, and I'll just give you a quick peek here just for a second. You can control how you want the information displayed here, and then over here there's all these filters that you can set. It's just a matter of going in and making these settings and then saving the view, and off you go.
Looks like a little bit of training, but it looks like a lot of power.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw that we did have a view for Brenda Diaz projects. How about if we took a quick look at that?
Sure. I'll bring this one up, and we'll refresh it.
And I think you mentioned that she could save it as her default view.
That's right.
So that way, whenever she comes in, I mean, it comes right up. I think that's nice. But I bet she'd like to see her schedule in a little more of a chronological fashion. That looks like it's just showing her projects kind of, what is that, project name order?
Yeah,
number order?
Right, project number order. Yeah, sure. Here's a good example. Let's go into view details. And what I'll wind up doing is changing this down here to the planned step date of the project. We don't need the task. We don't need the second level here. And let's see, I'll just click OK, and we'll refresh the selection, and now it's rearranged everything for us. So we're actually, when she logs in now, she'll see her schedule as it's laid out here, and if she jumps down to one of these, she can see exactly what project she's planned to be working on. If she double clicks on it, it jumps out in the Gantt chart to those projects.
Yeah, boy, that was pretty easy. I think even I could master that. I mean, that didn't look like a lot of SQL queries going on there.
Right.
Over at the right, though, I see projects and tasks. Where are those schedule bars?
Oh, the ones that showed our overcapacity stuff, etc. Again, that's a property of the view. I can make a change on the fly, or I can make the change permanent by saving it. So we'll just go in here and do it on the fly by changing the Gantt settings. And I'll take this down to the step level, and when I click OK, we'll get a refresh. And now if I jump back out to this particular project, we can see the schedule bars that you're talking about. Okay, let's go over to the resource schedule, see how she's doing overall.
I see another one of those dreaded red blocks. Looks like we've scheduled Brenda on Monday the 5th. Is that right? Yeah, it's the 5th. And that's a holiday for the company. What do we do if we really need to have her work on that day?
Well, we could ignore the red block, which would obviously be the easiest thing to do. We could also change her capacity on that day to make the red block turn orange.
So really what you're saying is we would make her work that day, and then we can just show that we have no overloads. Okay,
sure.
Let's go ahead and do that.
Sure. I'm just going to click on one of these green blocks here. One of these green blocks here, and we'll switch to the 5th, and I'll say there's 8 hours, which was the default. I'll click OK, and voila, problem taken care of.
Boy, that was simple. Hope Brenda's going to be happy. Now that I'm thinking about it, Brenda working on Monday, is she going to be working by herself? Is there anybody else that's going to be working that day? Is there a way, I only see her on here, is there a quick and easy way that we can see more of who's working?
Sure. Down here in the Gantt settings again, I can just, on the fly, I could have saved this with the view. In fact, you know, I have a view that I use for this, but while we're in here, I'll just say include all resources. And this will now gather up the data for this time period for all the resources. Notice, by the way, that what we've done is this groups all of our resources by their resource category.
Oh, I see that. Yeah. I don't see her category, though.
We got to scroll down to it. We're going to be watching this column here on the 5th.
Not many people working.
Doesn't look like it. Designers, nobody there. Electricians, laborers, there's Brenda. None of her compatriots are working on that day.
Even the construction trailers are off, huh?
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. I think we might have a problem there. So
that's quite a bit of information. What else do we see? I see some of those red blocks that we have elsewhere in the system. Do they mean something? They probably mean the same thing here, that we've got a bad condition, overload.
Right. Actually, just a little bit of background here. These green blocks in the first row here, this indicates the capacity for this particular resource for the day. So we see, for example, Barry Potter has 8 hours defined as his work day for 6/16, and he does have load here on 6/16 of 8 hours. So the block is yellow; it's not red. Whereas over here, it's turned red, and we can see there that where he had a capacity of 8 hours, we've got a total load of 16 hours working on 2 different jobs. That's why it's turned red.
So he probably is going to be rescheduled those 2 to the next 2 days,
Right.
or we just don't leave it and know that that's what he'll probably do.
Right.
Does that summarize at the count category level as well?
Yes, it does.
Count category. I mean resource category.
Resource category. Yeah.
Yep.
Right up here, it's that's exactly what it is. It's a summary of the resource category view. So you can see, for example, this red block, which was a result of and this happens to be Wendy Wheeler working on that day, is an overload block for consultants, all of consultants. She's the only one that's working there, and there's her actual tab.
I'll have to give her a good heads up when I see her in the hall. That's extra special for her working on that Sunday.
Yeah, right. And so, for example, over here on this day, if I hover, I can see our total load for consultants is 32 hours on that day. That's made up of 16 hours for Barry Potter and 16 hours for Wendy Wheeler.